All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to an episode of Matt Sports Talk, and this is a special episode because I am highlighting the historical record-breaking season that the Indiana Wesleyan University women's softball team had, and it was a phenomenal year for them. 43 and 15 overall, actually 45 and 13 overall, 30 and 6 in the Crossroads League, and it was a great year. They made the NAIA World Series Final Four appearance, first time ever in program history, which was really, really exciting. And I do not have it. I'm unable to have video feed on my end today, but that's perfectly okay. We'll make everything work with just an audio version of me. So, Coach, thanks so much for being able to join me today. And I'm joined by the head coach of Indiana Wesleyan University women's softball, Kelsey Kooistra. And Coach, once again, thanks so much for being able to join me today and for being able to do this interview.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. I appreciate you asking.
So my first question to start off is, what got you interested in playing softball? What made you pursue it in college? And then what led you to apply for the head coaching job position at Indiana Wesleyan?
Wow, that's a loaded question to start with there, Matt. I love it. Sports was just kind of a part of my DNA. I have three older brothers that all played football, basketball, baseball. So I grew up at the ballpark. I grew up at the basketball court, wherever it was, just depending on the season. So from as soon as I could start walking on, I had a ball in my hand, a bat, whatever it was, and I just played. I just loved to just be out there, be active. I love to compete. Probably also because I have three brothers, we're always pretty competitive with each other. Playing sports was never really a question of if. It was just like, hey, which ones do I want to pursue more than the others? I loved all sports. I would say up until about high school, that was when it kind of was like, okay, I want to specialize a little bit more, but I still never thought I'd play in college. That was never really a dream of mine. I just played sports because I enjoyed it, and I had nothing else to it. So I think it was my sophomore year of high school. I switched from being a right-handed hitter to a left-handed slapper. And I was like, I'm actually pretty good at this. I'm pretty fast. And so I had a couple of coaches that were like, hey, you could probably play in college. And I was like, really? Are you sure about that? So I played a summer of travel softball during high school. Cause again, I didn't play travel. I wasn't not your typical kind of path to college softball whatsoever. I played a year of travel, enjoyed it, did well. And then I just kind of started looking around a little bit, visiting some smaller Christian schools because I knew that was the route I wanted to go. I wanted to get an education my entire life. I wanted to be a teacher, so that was easy. I looked at schools with just good education programs. Indiana Wesleyan wasn't really actually on my radar early on. It was a teammate of mine from high school that was like, hey, you should check IWU out. And so I ended up going down there. I met Coach Babs, had a great visit, great talk with him. And so then went through the recruiting process and ended up at Indiana Wesleyan. So it was phenomenal. 4 years, absolutely loved it. Great experience. But like I said, I wanted to be a teacher. So I got my degree in math education, and I went and got a job up in northern Michigan area teaching middle and high school math. And I loved it. It was great. It was everything I dreamed of. I was coaching as well. I was coaching volleyball, basketball, and softball. When you get into a small Christian school, you kind of just do it all. And life was good. I wasn't really looking to leave, wasn't really looking for a change. But the Lord had some other plans for my life. And it was actually Coach Babs that reached out and was like, hey, there's a job in Grand Rapids, which is where my family was from. And he's like, you should apply for it. And I'm like, Coach Babs, I'm 25 years old. I have next to no coaching experience. Like, why? It didn't make sense, right? It didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense on paper. But he's like, no, you should do it. It's like, okay. So I applied thinking, no shot, I get this job. And, had an AD there that really took a chance on me and hired me. So I started out my coaching career at Cornerstone. Coached there for 4.5 years. Just a phenomenal experience. I had no idea what I was doing when I started out. Those girls had a lot of grace for me in the learning curve period of who I am as a coach. And then I think my story is very similar. As I got to IWU again, I wasn't looking for a change. I was pretty content. We had just made nationals at Cornerstone last year. So felt like we were on the right trajectory. And then I found about Coach Babs stepping down here at IWU. And truly, I don't think there's any other school that I would have even considered leaving for. but IWU was home for me. Like, it's not home, like my family's Michigan, but it's home in the sense of like, it was a place where I really grew into who I was. My relationship with the Lord just grew a ton during my time at IWU, and just something I'm super grateful for. So it just had a different kind of emotional connection for me. So I hemmed and hawed. I actually was like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to apply. But just had some really good conversations with people down here at IWU, and just felt like the Lord was like, hey, I need you to trust me in this. It doesn't really make sense, but I need you to trust me. So that's kind of the journey of the beginning to how I am where I am today.
Oh, that is awesome. Like, I really love that story, Coach, and I can really tell that God truly led you to Indiana Wesleyan, and of course, His plan and timing is always the best. And that reminds me of Psalm 119 that says, my word is a lamp unto thy feet and a light unto my path, and I can definitely see that in your story, and man, I absolutely love that, and thanks so much for sharing. And my next question is, now let's talk about, the 2026 season just wrapped up about a month ago here, literally in 5 days from now, which is crazy. And so, you guys had a great year, 30-6 in the Crossroads League, and it was a really competitive league top to bottom. It just wasn't Indiana Wesleyan. Grace, stunned Marion, which was a huge shock late in the season. And for you guys, you finished 30-6, had some really good wins, especially when you were down at Marion, when they were ranked 7th, getting a huge ranked win at their place, which I'm sure felt really, really good, and then beating them at home as well the second go around, and having 2 wins against St. Francis, another super, super good team, and they had a phenomenal year. And so, my question is, just talk about, how the regular season went overall. What were some things that went really well, and what were some areas at the time that you were looking to improve on heading towards the postseason for the Crossroads League tournament, which we'll dive into that here in a few minutes. But just in terms of the regular season, just what were your overall thoughts, and what were some areas you were looking to improve on?
For sure. Yeah, regular season. It feels like forever ago. But yeah. So we started out and we went to a tournament in Chicago. We were in a dome in early February, and we left that tournament going 1-3. And that was kind of a shock, I would say, to the system.
For sure.
I don't think anyone I would imagine that that's how our season started. And I don't know that we necessarily played horribly. I think we were young. We were kind of learning each other a little bit. Yeah, I was learning the team. They were learning me and the coaching dynamic. And the pieces didn't fall. We lost a couple close games, and it was just kind of like, huh. And then we head out to spring break. So we went out to Arizona for spring break, and then we lose. Was it the first 2 or first game? Maybe, I think it was. So now we're sitting 1-4 in the season, and it was just kind of like, what is happening? Like IWU in the history since I've known it has never had a start like that. And so, yeah, it was just kind of a wild experience. And I think there was a lot of like questioning of like, are we even going to make like conference tournament at the end of the year? Like, talking to some of the girls, they had that question. And I was like, you know what, here's the deal. Like, we as coaches, we saw what we saw throughout off season. We saw in the fall and the winter of what we were capable of. And so, while yes, there was a part of me that was like, what's going on? There was also a part of that's like, hey, like, this is going to take some time. Like, the pieces just have to fall into place here. Yeah, and then we got rolling with conference and the second half of spring break too, and we've kind of hit our stride. It was like, okay, this is what we're capable of. We had to go through some learning things with some young players and some new positions, and we had to let them experience what it's like to fail and how to learn and to grow from that. So that took a little bit of time, and luckily it didn't break us. I think the girls used that to kind of just pull together and really figure out, okay, how can we win well together? So yeah, I went throughout the regular season. The Crossroads is just a phenomenal conference. Top to bottom, there's no team that you can sleep on. You have to be ready and show up for every single game. And, a lot of people argue whether or not we should play everybody in our conference twice, like we do. But truly, I think it makes us a much better team because you have to prepare every single game. You know your opponents, but they know you. And to beat a team 4 times or even 3 times, like it's just hard to do. And I think that showed up. I think what the Crossroads is able to accomplish postseason this year, it shows. There's what we're capable of when we push each other in that way. So just super grateful for the conference. Tons of fun games mixed in throughout there. Yeah, a lot of like come from behind wins throughout the year, which was super fun. Well, it wasn't super fun. Very stressful as a coach, not ideal. But it was fun afterwards when you win those games for sure.
Sure.
But I think those are important. Like, you have to know what you're capable of and what that fight looks like, and just knowing that, like, you just can't ever give up. And I think that really, and I know we're not talking, postseason yet, but that really translated postseason for us when things got just, the tournament itself was just tough. There were a lot of things that weren't going our way necessarily. But we've had that before. We had to fight through it, and they were much more capable, I think, because of what they had experienced earlier in the year. So, yeah, just a fun regular season. There's always ups and downs. There's a week, here or there where you're like, oh, we're just not us. But, that's that fight, the grind that they have to push through. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, and so it was a great season. Especially you talked about those come from behind wins. The one here in Mount Vernon, that I went to, that was phenomenal. I mean, when you guys were down, I think it was 7-1. I'm like, of course, I played baseball back in the day, so played all infield positions, a little bit of outfield too, even though it was with the league with children with disabilities, which was pretty awesome. No umpires, and everybody was safe at first base by default. But and of course I love minor league baseball, and I've been to a lot of minor league games where teams have been down 6-7 runs early and have come all the way back, and it doesn't happen often, but the win in Mount Vernon, like that was pretty awesome, this year for sure. And so, you mentioned, the postseason. So going off of that, now let's briefly talk about the Crossroads League tournament. I don't know the last time was Indiana Wesleyan did not win a single Crossroads League tournament game, but it was a huge shock, I think, to a lot of people. But don't get me wrong, like, there were a lot of great teams in that tournament, no matter, where they were seated. You look at Spring Arbor with Emily Underwood, who had the leading ERA in the whole entire Crossroads League this year. And you look at Huntington, another super good pitching staff. And it really just top to bottom, like it was a phenomenal tournament. And even though it didn't work out for Indiana Wesleyan, just briefly talk about that. What were some lessons learned through that adversity? And obviously you guys knew at that point you would make the national tournament with sweeping Huntington on senior day at home, getting the automatic bid, thankfully. But just briefly talk about the Crossroads League tournament. What were some lessons learned from that experience that y'all were looking to take to build momentum heading into the national tournament?
Yeah, Matt, it's something that I honestly, I would say I'm still processing and trying to figure out kind of what were those pieces. I would argue that the last couple weeks of our regular season, we kind of just were on like a little bit of a lull. I would say we still won some games in there. We lost some, but we won some games in there. Some of them that I don't even know if we had business winning. But that's how the game is sometimes, right? We still had just pure raw talent on our team, and that's going to show through. But just mentally, I don't know that we were 100% in. And coming out with that regular season conference, I think there was just a little bit of like, oh, we did it, we got all the games we needed to make that happen. And I'm so proud of the girls. That was honestly one of the highlights from the year, being at senior day, standing there celebrating as a team afterwards, our seniors, and then finding out together as a team like that, hey, we won. That was just such a cool moment for sure, and a highlight. But yeah, I would just say we were kind of on this like, as we headed into the conference tournament, just, I don't know if there was a contentment of like, hey, we made nationals, we're good, we don't need to worry about this tournament. I don't know. I'm not really sure what that was, and I think that's part of coaching, is I don't know that you always know, right? There's a mental side to the game that can just be a little bit tricky to figure out. But yeah, I think we could tell kind of showing up like we were just not fully in. Now, I'm not nothing against who we played, because like you said, our conference is just so good. Emily pitched a phenomenal game. She absolutely crushed it, and is one of the best pitchers I've seen. And that's just how the game works. We went 2 and out, and there was just this our talk afterwards. I'm not sitting there reaming on the girls, because they know, right? They know what they're capable of, and they know that what they showed wasn't it. But they also know the game's tough, and it's hard to win. It's hard to beat a team that many times, especially at a tournament, right? Where every other team, they're fighting for their season at that point. And my girls didn't necessarily have that push at that moment of like, yeah, if we lose, we're done. And that's something we'll continue working on, talking through and processing. How do we do that mentally a little bit better? But yeah, there was just something that wasn't quite there. But it was fun to watch the rest of the teams compete at the tournament. Definitely went home and still watched all of them. And yeah, they just really grinded through, and it was just cool to see. So yeah, not our favorite showing, that's for sure. But it's cool to my favorite part of the entire year is to see the response from that tournament than to what happened to opening rounds. So I'm not sure if that's where we're heading next.
Yeah. Actually, it is. You nailed nailed it on that one. But yeah, so now let's talk about the national tournament. And you're sent down to Lindsey Wilson for the regional site, and Lindsey Wilson, phenomenal team, ranked in the top 11. You match up with Missouri Baptist, ranked 8th. They had a 40-win season, phenomenal offense, great pitching as well. For all the teams as far as that goes that were at that regional site at Lindsey Wilson. And you guys upset Missouri Baptist in the opening round, which I'll be honest, I didn't see that one coming, just knowing just how good Missouri Baptist was, and especially Lindsey Wilson, going up against their star pitcher that going into that game, she had struck out, I believe it was 238 batters compared to only 34 walks. And I'm like, this is going to be really, really tough. And you guys, come out with a huge win, 11-3 in that game. And their star pitcher gives up the most amount of runs that she had given up since they had played Freed Hardman, another team in their conference, the Mid-South, which is one of the toughest conferences in the whole country. But I just think that y'all just seem to go into overdrive times 2 after the early exit and the Crossroads League tournament into the national tournament, and not just upsetting Missouri Baptist and Lindsey Wilson, but when you guys match up with Johnson, you beat them via run rule to advance to the final site, which like that was pretty special. And then, but like, what led to all the success in the opening round at regionals, especially coming off of the tough Crossroads League tournament early exit, to where you guys just put it into overdrive times 2 at that regional site at Lindsey Wilson? Just what led to the success at that site for opening round?
Yeah, Matt, I think if I knew the exact answer to that, I could probably write a book and make a lot of money off of that. Because it's truly the question, right? Like, what led from that to what happened the rest of the year? I wish I knew, but I think I don't think we panicked. I think as a team, we just said, hey guys, we've got a choice here. Like, we know who we are. We know what we're capable of. I mean, if you look at the stats offensively, like, we led in so many categories all year long. Like, we knew what we could do. Defensively, I mean, we could talk about Avery Toole all day long probably, but like throughout the year, she just kept getting better and better and better on the mound, and the team just kept playing better and better behind her. And so we knew we had the pieces. It's just, hey guys, you've got a choice here. You can choose to just be done and have an early departure to summer break, or you can be like, hey, we've earned it to be here, and we want to prove what we're capable of. And I truly think from the moment we left school to head down to Lindsey Wilson, like, there was just something that was different. They truly were they were so excited. They were just playing for each other. They were soaking up every moment. And we said that, like, this could be the last opportunity that this team is together, this exact group of girls. And, you guys get to choose how long you want that to last. And they just embraced it. We had such a fun trip down to Lindsey Wilson. Lindsey Wilson's a super fun complex. Loved playing there, and just had a great tournament. We always say, like, pass the bat, like, one thing leads to the next, and they truly had that mindset, right? That selfless mindset of, hey, I'm gonna get on so my teammate can hit me over, and then so my next teammate can hit me in. And it just showed, the bats were hot, that's for sure. And it definitely helps. And Avery was just absolutely out there dealing on the mound. Her and Tharp back behind the plate, they just had such a great tournament together. And then you've got Briley, who stepped into more of a DP role there in postseason, but she's the one that really led Avery and Tharp and just really instilled a lot of confidence in them. So just all the pieces really were fitting together, and they were just having fun. Like, there was just genuine joy. I remember before our first game at Lindsey Wilson, I kind of went around and checked in with all of our seniors, because as a senior, it's hard, right? The mental challenge of, like, this could be it, but I don't want to be thinking about this is it, So I just kind of checked in with them, and all of them were just like, we're just here to have fun. We're just here to, kind of enjoy the moment. And no one was, like, wound up or stressed out. I'm like, okay, this might be a really, really great day here. So yeah, they just truly embrace playing for one another, playing for the mission, that's way bigger than the game of softball. Of course they wanted to win. And of course we're competitive. We're going to compete hard. But they just embrace the fact that like, hey, we don't want this to be done because we want more opportunities to be together as a team. We want more opportunities to shine the love of Christ out on the softball field. And they did that with just so much pure joy, genuine fun. It made my job as a coach so easy. I say that all the time. Like it's just fun. So yeah, I think that's kind of my thought to opening rounds.
Yeah.
There.
And yeah, for sure, and it was a great opening round. And now we get to the final site, which was amazing. You guys finished in the Final Four, very first time ever in program history. And your only losses to number one Madonna, even though that was a tough loss. They had a big sixth inning, but you were right there with them every step of the way. Phenomenal team, and I definitely could see why they were number one in the country with their offensive power and their pitching is just absolutely amazing. And then obviously, falling in the Final Four game, to Our Lady of the Lake, again, phenomenal team, great pitching staff. But most notably, the huge upset that you guys had against the defending national champions, number 6 in the country, Southern Oregon, Avery Toole. Man, what a job that young lady did in that game. Just absolutely amazing. Just briefly talk about, the experience at the final site. I know the weather was a big factor, but at least it cooperated, to where you all were able to play all your games. So that was a great thing. But just briefly talk about that. What was that experience like at the final site, and what were those big upset wins, especially against Southern Oregon? What was that experience like?
Yeah. Like I said earlier, like still processing some of that for sure. But memories to last a lifetime. Like the tournament itself was hard. Like the weather delays and all that came with that was really tricky mentally. So I'm just so proud of the way the girls fought through that. Because I think it would have been super easy with our schedule and how things lined up. Just been like, we got to be done. Like we're done. It's time for summer. Like let's get out of here. But they embraced every single difficulty that came their way. I don't know how many different dance parties we had in the hallway while we were waiting. I don't know how many games of euchre were played, how many hacky sacks got stuck up on the rafters because we're sitting there trying to play those under the shelter while it was storming. So truly, they just, they took all the grain of salt, and they, like I said, they wanted to share these moments, these memories together, and they embraced it. So just overall, such a hard but such a fun experience. Just the bonding that happened was just incredible. Yeah, the games, oh my word, talk about stress as a coach, right?
For sure.
Going on innings and things like that. But like because of just who this team is, they just make that so it's like it's no big deal, because again, every inning that we get to be together is a gift, right? Every opportunity we have to play together with this exact team is just a blessing. And so when you take it that way, it's not this like pressure, like we have to do well, we have to succeed. Of course, again, we want to win and do that, but you can just take all that away when you're like, no, it's another opportunity to be together. It's another opportunity to glorify our Lord through the sport of softball. And so there just wasn't that tension that I think you can feel in a lot of times when you're like, we're playing the returning national champions, like like we never had that conversation. We never talked about that. It didn't feel like whoever was across from us on that field, like it was like, okay, let's go, like why not, like let's go play, let's go have a really good softball game and see what we can do. So that just kind of demeanor and that attitude just made it such a great experience for everybody. So I'm grateful for it as a coach because it makes my job again 10 times easier. But yeah, just truly a testament to the girls and just the incredible work that they put in this year to really just focus on the mental side of the game. Yes, of course, the physical side, but that's a given, right? We put a lot more work into the mental side this year, and I think that really showed there at the end because mentally that was just a tough situation, and they made it seem like it was no big deal. So just so proud of them. To finish 4th in the nation is absolutely incredible. To have wins against teams like Southern Oregon, to have a game like we did against Madonna. I mean, they're legit. They're really good, all into the game. They really are. And I knew that going in. I'd face them every year in the WAC conference when I was at Cornerstone. But yeah, they truly, they earned that national championship, and I'm just the fight that we put up against them, super proud. And I think the girls know that, right? It's going to really be helpful as we head into the future, being like, guys, you're right there with the team that won. You beat the team that won the previous year. So there's just a lot of confidence building that can happen from the experiences that we had this year. So very grateful for that.
Yeah.
I apologize for the
no, that's all right. Yeah, for sure. And so as we wrap up, my last two questions, obviously, but there were quite a few seniors this year, but most notably Courtney Thomas, Morgan Yeater, and Yeater, the all-time career leader now in stolen bases. And I thought Jenna Yost was really good when she played at Indiana Wesleyan, and then to see Morgan Yeater, have that record, it's just absolutely amazing. And what was it like for you to coach those two young ladies, and just what did it mean to coach them, and how did they grow in their upperclassmen leadership this past season?
Yeah, coming in, like, those poor seniors had just a tough situation for them, right? They played for 3 years, they were recruited by a previous coach, and then they come in for their senior year, their last hurrah, and they're, like, hey, by the way, you've got a new coach. And so it would have been super easy for all of them to kind of be like, meh, I'm just not about this. I'm not going to try to learn a new coach for last year. But honestly, they did the complete opposite. Like, they were like, hey, this is our last year, and we want to make it great. We want to make it special. We want to leave a legacy behind for the girls to come. And they did that, and they put the work in to make sure that happened. So just super proud of them for the fight that they had, for the leadership that they exemplified throughout the year, because of the tough role they were put in. But yeah, Courtney and Morgan, just super fun having them out in the outfield. They're a hoot to watch. I don't know if you ever get a chance to just watch outfield. It's a little bit trickier out there, but they have so much fun together. There's just pure, genuine joy out there. And yeah, they're absolute studs on the field, off the field, just great human beings. They're roommates, they're best buds in life. So that always makes things a little bit easier too. But yeah, just proud of the role that they stepped into. They're incredible human beings that I know they're just going to go out and impact the world. Both of them head off to grad school and then going to be PT, OT. And so they're just excited to see the ways that, they impact God's kingdom in their workplace now, because there's a lot of just life lessons that, they learned through softball, they learned through their collegiate experience at IWU, that I'm just excited to watch them take into their lives now. So yeah, very grateful for the opportunity to coach them. They're just such genuine human beings. And yeah, so grateful for it.